Hey everyone, it's Cindy and welcome back to my channel, or if it is your first time here, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being here. If you haven't already, do please consider subscribing to make sure you don't miss out on any of my videos, and I'll look forward to speaking to you a lot. So today's video I'm going to be talking about Holly Willoughby and her phobia of birds. There's a video trending on YouTube and you've probably seen on This Morning and in all the papers that a lady called Helen Mottram has adopted a crow. Well, it's not a crow. He's called Russell Crowe, but he's actually a rook. And he lives with her and her husband, and she's made it big time in the media. And she's a good friend of mine, Helen, and I'm so proud of her and pleased for her that everything's sort of kicking off. She's actually an animal behaviourist, that's not easy to say, and she works a lot with dogs that have got problems, and she helps to rehabilitate them and make them calmer and happier so that they can go out for walks with their owners and have a nice time. And what she's doing is so valuable. I'll make sure I put a link to her Facebook page and her blog and stuff like that all down below so that you can connect with Helen. She's awesome. Anyway, so she was on This Morning with Holly and Phil, and there were some hilarious consequences, but poor Holly, she was really suffering. So what I want to talk about today is phobias, and specifically how we can help phobias with the tools that I use. So if that's something you're interested in, then do please keep watching. Okay, so let's talk about phobias. What are they? Well, a phobia is kind of a fear, only it's much more than that. It's irrational to everyone who hasn't got it. And we can have fears of heights and fears of falling and that kind of thing, and they're rational, they make sense, because if you're going to fall off something of a great height, it's going to damage your body, and so therefore we should have a healthy fear of those kind of things. And for instance, you know, snakes, if you don't know how to handle them, and you're not experienced in that kind of thing, it's really a bad idea to go poking around with snakes that you don't know anything about. And so having a healthy fear of snakes is also a good thing. But it's when a fear becomes irrational, and also it takes over your life. It makes you have a massive reaction and you can't control it. So for instance, I used to have a phobia about wasps, and if I even saw a wasp, I would just run away. It didn't matter where I was or what I was doing, if I had my kids with me, whatever, I would literally need to run away. Now, that was tricky, obviously, so I would have to find a way to sort of be with my kids and keep them safe. But if a wasp was on my kids, that was even worse. So it used to be really, really bad, and people would say to me, oh, stand still, it won't hurt you, and all that. Doesn't mean a thing if you're in the middle of reacting to something that you have a phobia about. So Holly Willoughby obviously must have a phobia about birds. She was talking about it on the show when Russell Crowe was on there, and it was amazing to watch her reaction, you know, from my point of view, having got rid of a phobia like that, and also helping people with phobias sometimes as well. Seeing her reaction to that bird, who wasn't going to do anything to her, and you know, everyone else was kind of okay with it, but it was just really, really affecting her, and she was really struggling to focus and to carry on talking, and you could see that she was constantly keeping her eyes on the rook and making sure that he wasn't about to jump on her and do whatever she feared he might do. And so it was very obvious to see that she has this phobia. Where do phobias come from? Now, quite often, well, always really, I think phobias come from an experience, or we can learn them from the experiences of others. So we might, maybe as a small child, be made, have something make us jump, and that thing that made us jump could become the focus of a phobia. So for instance, my daughter, when she was little, she was in a pushchair. We were at a children's party, and there was a character dressed up as like the slush puppy thing, and you know, he was going around doing, he or she, I don't know, was going around doing their thing, trying to amuse all the children, and she hadn't seen it coming, and it was kind of like in her face. She turned around and it was there, and it made her jump, and she screamed. And from that point on, she had this irrational fear of dressed up people, anything with a head, like a costume with a head. She didn't like puppets. She didn't like kind of things that were animated, like, you know, those wobble ball things. She didn't like that. So she kind of spread into lots of other different fears as well, and that can happen with a phobia. So she developed this phobia literally from this puppy thing making her jump when she was little, and then her unconscious mind generalized that to all dressed up people, including Father Christmas, which made things rather awkward. And I've got loads of stories about when we went to different places and she would literally be climbing up me, trying to get over my back and away from the thing, whatever it was, like the cocoa bean character at Cadbury World, and some people that were advertising a local pub which had a children's area and stuff like that, you know, literally climbing up me to get away. She was that terrified. She's 21 now, so she's kind of over it, but she's a bit suspicious of people, you know, in the street, and you get the street performers and they're dressed up, so she's still not particularly happy about it, but it's no longer a phobia. She kind of grew out of it. So sometimes that can happen, we can just grow out of it. The other thing about phobias is that we can kind of develop them at any age. It doesn't have to be when we're a child, but a lot of the time our phobias as adults do come from when we were children. And when I talked about we can get phobias from other people, it could be that maybe someone's mum has a spider phobia, and then as they're growing up they see their mum having this massive reaction every time there's a spider, so they learn to have the same reaction and they can learn to also have the same phobia. So they haven't had the initial whatever the event was that caused the phobia for the mum, but they've learned it from the mum, or in fact the mum might have learned it from someone close in their family as well. So it's quite complicated about where phobias come from, but it's usually from an experience or someone's experience that's close to you that you've picked up on. And it can have such wide-reaching effects on us that it's really important actually to deal with these things. So, you know, for most people, for something like a bird phobia like Holly Willoughby, it's not going to affect you in everyday life. But it's still a bit of a problem if you're going to do a TV show where you're likely to have animals coming on to the show. So it would be a great idea for Holly to get some help getting rid of that phobia so that she can stay calm and feel good even when there's birds around. I have a friend who had a fear of escalators, and a lot of people have one of those, and hers had developed into a phobia. And how a fear develops into a phobia is that we're a bit afraid of something and we avoid it. And then when we do experience it, we sort of run away, and that tells our body that this is something that we should be really afraid of. So the next time we see that thing, we get an even bigger response and we run away. And then we're just constantly reinforcing how scary and dangerous this thing is to us, to the point where our body, when we perceive this thing that we have a phobia about, is immediately triggered into that fight or flight or even freeze response. God, I couldn't think of the word then. So phobias can come from a fear, and it can just develop when we avoid them. So if you have a fear of escalators and then you avoid them, you could end up with a phobia. And that's what happened to my friend. And she'd had an experience when she was young that had caused this fear, and then it had just got worse and worse and worse the more she avoided it, to the point where she literally couldn't go down an escalator and only up if she was holding someone's hand. So it can really, really get in the way of your life, because some shops it's a real pain in the butt to get to the lift, and there aren't, like, the stairs are at the back of the shop, and it's just a nuisance, and to just go up the escalator would be a lot simpler for her. So it's one of those things that if it's not affecting your life, don't worry about it. For me, wasps were really affecting my life because it was causing me to react in unpredictable ways, and the whole of late summer was a complete nightmare for me, and I would want to just stay in all the time and not eat if I was out and about, or drink anything even, because that would attract wasps. I wouldn't want anyone to be eating or drinking around me because that would attract wasps, and so it was really, really tricky. And I've been stung by wasps, and it's, you know, nobody died and it's not that bad. So it's not the stinging, it's the buzzing around my face that used to get to me. So what can we do about phobias? I said, Holly, you ought to go and get that sorted out, and there is stuff you can do. It's best if you've got a phobia that you work with a professional, because it's not an easy thing to do on your own, and also it's very scary, and you might sort of have a reaction and it'd be uncontrolled, and you could make it worse. So do seek the help of a professional. I would use various tools for a phobia, whatever I felt was right for that particular client. So I have things like tapping or emotional freedom technique, which I could use to help to reduce that response to whatever the stimulus was. I could use NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming, which is a way of almost rewiring that response. So you get the stimulus and then you get a different response. We get to choose a different one, and that's what happened with me. I had NLP on my wasp phobia, which I don't have anymore. I'm not best friends with them, and I wouldn't want to go and lie in a nest of them, but I don't run away screaming anymore. And actually I find it quite amusing, not amusing, but it's kind of like looking at someone who does have a wasp phobia reacting how I used to react. It's really quite funny to me, sort of internally, not laughing at them, but laughing at how I used to be. And I can look back and laugh at it now, but at the time it was horrendous. So NLP is a way of rewiring the way our brains react to stuff and things like that. And then the other way, the other tool that I would use for it is M-braining, which is a cutting edge tool that I use for coaching, which is based on the premise that we've got a head, a heart and a gut brain, and neuroscience has shown that that is true, and how they communicate together and everything like that can have a big impact on our behaviour, and so a phobia could possibly be treated with M-braining as well. So I have a suite of tools that I would use for phobias. So if you have a phobia and it's something that you want to deal with, it's affecting your life in some way, then do please contact a professional. You can find lists of EFT, emotional freedom technique people, you can find lists of NLP practitioners, and you can find lists of whatever it is, that M-braining even. If you just Google those things, you will find lists of those people that you can get in touch with. You could ask friends for recommendations of anyone that they've used who's got any of those skills that could help with the phobia, or you could get in touch with me if you want to, and we can have a chat about it and see if I can maybe help you or recommend you to someone else, maybe someone in your area or something like that. So there is something you can do if you have got a phobia. There's definitely a way past it, and you can be free like I am and no longer have that as an issue. So do please get in touch if you want me to help you or to discuss this with you, and of course just look up for some support local to you. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this has helped in some way to explain Holly's behaviour on the sofa of this morning this week, and to explain phobias a little bit to you, so in case you have one you might be able to deal with it, or if you know someone who has one, perhaps you understand it a little bit more, and maybe you might look at it a bit differently for them. So thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you like this video, just to let me know, and I'll speak to you really soon in the next video.